What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Cornelia, back with another episode of Black News, a podcast where we break down current events, hot topics, and local stories involving Black people. Now let's get into it. What a week, child. What a week. Y'all, this has been an incredible week. And I'm not saying incredible necessarily from the standpoint of all good. I mean, it has been unprecedented, incredible. What a week. And again, real quick before I even continue on, I am still struggling trying to figure out the audio with this new equipment. So if it be sounding blown out, y'all, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm going to keep trying and I'm going to keep giving it my all. But literally, I don't know what to do. So we're just going to keep on keeping on. What a week. What a week. This has been an unprecedented week. And I know this is Black News. This is the Black News Podcast. I am completely aware of that. I also know that politics is Black news. Politics is Black news, Black man. Politics is Black news, Black woman. What a week. We have literally seen a president. And this, I would say, this is the first time in our generation, because if you listen to Black News, I'm willing to bet that you between the ages of, I will give you early 20s up to late 40s, maybe max 50s. And if you older than that, shout out to you, Black News listener. This will probably apply to you too, because the last president to, I believe, resign from an election cycle, was it Lyndon B. Johnson? Maybe Richard Nixon? It was one of them. Child, I didn't get to look up the facts, but we have never seen this. President Joe Biden has dropped out of the race. Not to be confused, he did not resign from his position as president of the United States. He still got 5 more months for that, because the new president isn't sworn in until January. So that man is still going to be in office. But y'all, I'm in the bed Sunday, big kicking it, living my life, and I see the news headlines blowing up. I was on Twitter and saw his post about 5 minutes after he posted. He wrote a letter. The letter said it is in his best interest of the party, the country, that he steps out of the race and will not be seeking re-election. What the F? I honestly did not expect that. I was not expecting that. And with that said, I take back everything that I had said, because on here I was saying it's too late to switch candidates. I admit, I said it's too late. Everything is, the train is leaving the station. It is impossible. I take everything back that I said. I admit when I was wrong. I was incorrect. I was wrong. It is not too late, apparently, and obviously, and now we in it. We are here, baby. He is no longer in the running. So a couple things before I get to the main event, which is Vice President Kamala Harris being the first. She's not the first Black woman nominee for a major party, because we shout out to Shirley Chisholm, the legendary DST represent. Okay. But she got a strong chance to be the first actual president. Like, she can make this happen. So before even getting that, I was peeping game this whole time, ever since the debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I have never seen a media take down the way that I've seen them react towards Joe Biden. And I personally was disgusted. I know bias in media and I understand how the game played, but it was to the point where there were some news publications where I was literally online Googling who owned these particular outlets. New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, Fox. I'm Googling who owns these, because there had to be somebody at the very top who was driving this content. And having worked in news that only that 1 year, yeah, there in local news, there is, there is sometimes messaging from like the general manager and the network overall, but for the most cases, it's your news director and it's people in that newsroom following major stories. But the way they was putting out them hit jobs on Joe Biden, I ain't never seen it nothing like that before. And they disrespected Joe Biden, and he was bullied out of seeking reelection. Yes, he old, and yes, you know, his performance was not good. We all know that. But there was a significant difference in the way people were covering Donald Trump versus the way they were covering Joe Biden. And it was very obvious. So again, I am disappointed and frustrated that they bullied him out of office. I do not like it. I do not like how there were random Democrats popping out and saying that he should step down. There's certain ones on the list where I feel like we need to keep a running list. And when it's time for people to seek reelection, we need to get them up out of here. Because one thing I'm doing, you ain't gonna break rank. If we say we're gonna do something and we agree on it, you're not going to break rank publicly. You can pull me to the side behind the scenes. All of that conversation they were having, they could have had it behind the scenes. And that goes for David Axelrod. Let me tell you something. I feel like David Axelrod and Joe Biden must have got into it back in the day, because David Axelrod seems to really have it out for Joe Biden. That's just me observing. I don't know what happened. Maybe Joe didn't want to pull David over from the old Obama coalition. Who knows? But David, something going on with him and David. Anyway, I was completely and extremely disappointed in how that was handled. So when Joe Biden's statement came out, I was very sad, very disappointed, and felt very defeated. Why? Because one, I honestly feel like the Republican Party does a good job of staying on message, whether that is good or bad. And in their case, it's pretty bad. And I feel like Democrats show their weakness a little more and always kind of want to be like, we go high, they go low, we go high. So I was disappointed that they just could not rally behind and just get on board, because if all of them would have act like nothing was wrong, guess what? Ain't nothing wrong. Now, I understand the danger in that, right? Because I have quite a few friends who were on the side of he's unfit, he's not fit, he's not fit. But when you literally have democracy on the line, you got to get in line and push forward. So I was really disappointed. And also, contrary to popular belief and how people always bringing up the crime bill and all these things, I actually like Joe Biden. I was one of those people when he ran, well, before he was elected. If y'all go back and if y'all some happy hour listeners, remember we had the happy hour shot of conversation podcast. If y'all were listening to that, I was one of the people who actually said that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris was the ticket that could get it done, and they actually did. So I like Joe Biden, and I'm not. And yes, the crime bill was bad, but I am not one of those black people who are ignoring the fact that the Congressional Black Caucus and your grandmas and aunties and them was on the side of the crime bill, because the 90s were bad. Yes, in hindsight, it did irreparable damage, but the 90s were bad. And your grandma was telling lawmakers to put these little roughnecks, as they used to call them, in jail. Is that justified? No, but it is what it is. So to say I was disappointed, that is an understatement. Joe Biden then comes out and immediately endorses Vice President Kamala Harris. Let me read the statement for y'all. The statement from Joe Biden. Again, this is after he announced that he is not going to seek re-election. He said, "My fellow Democrats, I have decided not to accept the nomination and to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this. Y'all, jaw drop. Now, not jaw drop because I wasn't expecting it. I was not expecting Joe Biden to do it as quickly and in this way. This was swift, right? Sometimes when people make big statements, you expect maybe a day or two for people to kind of settle, the dust to settle. No, he came right back after and said, boom, this is what's going to happen. And so that did a few things. Now, personal feelings in that moment, I was one, pleased because we had conversations and we've been having conversations on social media and we've been seeing discussions about this. When they were debating if he should drop out the race, people kept jumping over Kamala Harris. They kept ignoring Kamala Harris. And one thing you're not about to do as a Democratic Party is skip over your entire Black voting base, which is the most reliable base that you have, by saying we're not going to run Vice President Harris as the presidential nominee. You're basically telling Black voters, screw you again, on top of everything else. But they kept having a conversation. So seeing Joe Biden do it, I immediately was like, okay, great. But then on the flip side, I immediately thought another thing. Lord, I am so exhausted, and Black people are so exhausted. Black women are exhausted. And now, once again, we're going to have to shoulder the brunt of racism and sexism on our backs in the sake of and on the quest of defending, sticking up for, and rallying behind a candidate. It's exhausting. Two things can be true at the same time. You can be extremely excited and hopeful, and you can also be weary, if you will. Now, not weary for her. She's a great nominee, but in that immediate moment, I was like, Lord, here we go. We got to deal with this. But then I also was like, okay, how is this going to work? Because when you think about voter bases and the number of votes that you got to pick up, the climate that we're in, racism and sexism, can she win? So I was in a state of frenzy. I'm talking about, I even went to the gym and was on the treadmill just stressing. When I was at home, I cried. And listen, at one point I was like, girl, why are you crying? Because there is so much happening within politics. And I really kind of envy people who are so unaffected by stuff like this. But I literally care about the rights of our people. And I'm going to get into the call that I was on. But Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter, Bernice King, said something to the effect of yesterday or last night that people are literally trying to strip away the rights that her father was shot and killed for. He was shot and killed for us to have certain rights and protections, and people are literally trying to take that away. So essentially, that man died for nothing. So I was just so overwhelmed with emotion. So all day I was spinning. And I'm sure some of you probably were as well. Fast forward to all of a sudden, I started getting texts from multiple homegirls of mine and in group chats that there was a Zoom call being organized with 1,000 Black women. 1,000 Black women gonna meet up on Zoom to strategize and rally behind and start to press forward with supporting Vice President Kamala Harris for president. So I was like, okay, shoot, listen, if it's some Black leaders, if it's some women leaders gravitating towards each other and congregating, give me the link. Okay, give me the link. And I'm not saying that's like me thinking that I'm a Black leader, but I want to be in the know. And if people making moves, I want to know where the moves at. Okay, I'm in the number. So join the Zoom link, couldn't get in. immediately was like, okay, I'm gonna keep trying. Cause y'all know Zoom. If you work a job and you've been on Zoom enough through the pandemic and you have a company where y'all be having events and stuff, ain't no Zoom link gonna be able to fit a certain amount of people. You either need to make it a webinar, and then you got to get the special webinar access to have it over a certain amount. So when I tried to get in, couldn't get in. Great. Kept trying, couldn't get in. Somebody sent again, there's a new link. Great. Tried to get in, couldn't get in. Tried one more time, couldn't get in. Then word on the street, the organizers know the COO of Zoom and had the COO open up the Zoom link so that it can be an unlimited number of guests. I joined that Zoom. Black women, thought leaders, leaders in politics, entertainment, arts, you name it. Black women were on there. When I joined the call, it was up to 30,000 women. By the time I got off, there were 44,000 women all gathered on Zoom, ready and willing and waiting for marching orders. When I tell you, and this is what changed my perspective. And I'm not saying change my perspective thinking that Kamala Harris was not a good pick, because I've always thought she was a good pick and a fantastic pick. She would have had my vote if in the primaries, if she wouldn't have dropped out before it got to California. She's always had my vote and my support. But I did not see how we could pull this off until I got on that Zoom. And when I tell you, one thing if you want to get some Black women organized, or I even take that back, I take a step back. If it's time to organize some shit, Black women gonna jump in. When I tell you, that felt like an emergency chapter meeting. When something in your chapter, I don't care if it's Jack and Jill Chums, DST, aka Zeta Phi Beta, it don't matter. If Black women gotta get something done, it's the emergency chapter meeting. They were able to gather 44,000 Black women in a span of a couple of hours. And within 3 hours, that group of Black women raised $1 million for Kamala Harris and her campaign. In 3 hours, $1 million. By the morning, it was up to $1.5 million. And that's on a Sunday night. Child, people cooking dinner. They just got out of church. You doing family time, grocery shopping. They were able to get that meeting together and gather all of us Black women within that time span. And then some women were pissed because they still ain't get the right link. So there were women waiting, trying to figure out how to get on the Zoom. At that very moment, I realized, oh shit, we about to pull this off. We are about to pull this off. And here's how I feel like we can do that. One, the Divine Nine has already made a statement and says, as a collective, all of the Divine Nine fraternities and sororities, and if you're a Black News listener, you don't know what that is all 9 Black Greek letter organizations. That is Alpha Kappa Alpha, Delta Sigma Theta, Sigma Gamma Rho, Zeta Phi Beta. That is Alpha Phi Alpha, Omega Psi Phi, Kappa Alpha Psi, Iota Phi Theta, and Phi Beta Sigma. Have all joined and said, as a collective, we are going to take initiative to go after voter registration, and we are going to. That's going to be the first step, voter registration, all together as a collective. Because in case you forgot it and missed it, y'all know Kamala Harris is AKA Howard Alpha Chapter, 1980s. Okay, above ground. She pledged. Okay, ahead of Hell Week. No, she did. We know she did. Okay. So at that, I said, oh, okay, so this is how we're going to get it done. Voter registration, right? You already know y'all already know how Black women got to save democracy every time it's an election. So we already know that's the case. However, I see on social media, the way that the Black women have already began to rally, it now triggered Black men, because y'all know, listen, we competitive in the Black community. Don't sleep on us. So then Black men set up a Zoom call for Monday night to do the same thing. maybe within an hour or two of their call, I started seeing on social media flying around, they raised already $500,000 to go towards Kamala Harris's campaign. So then you have those movements. We also, I feel like, have shamed white women over the past few years, ever since Hillary didn't get elected, into what had happened. So I'm already starting to see other demographics hold their peers accountable, right? So we got that. We already doing that. One thing too that people are negating and forgetting about, Kamala Harris is, while she's a 59-year-old woman, she still presents very young. And people like to kind of attack her and criticize her, laughs, and she likes to have a good time. But one thing that woman is, she is social media-able. So now, if she get the right social media team, they about to win on social. Then she's a prosecutor. So now they can target and play the whole race as if she is now tasked with prosecuting a convicted felon, which is Donald Trump. We got that. We also now have to figure out how to make up. And again, I'm no political expert. This is just Cornelia. And granted, last week or 2 weeks ago, I said this. So you ain't got, listen, take whatever I say with a grain of salt, child, because I don't be knowing. Okay. I'm just spitballing and brainstorming ideas and giving y'all what I left that call hosted by Win with Black Women. What I left with, the feeling that I was given when I got off that. We know there's certain demographics that will not rally behind Kamala Harris. But we also know that as of 2024, there will be 41 million members within Gen Z that are eligible to vote. I also saw something today where it said since 2016, I believe ish, maybe 2012, 2016, 20 million baby boomers have passed away. So now for demographics that you feel like do not relate to Kamala Harris, you got 41 million members of Gen Z that you can go after. So I honestly think if they play this right social media wise, and if we really hit it hard for these 3 months and really play up the dangerous rhetoric and what's to come with another red hat presidency, I really think she gonna take it. I really believe that. So what are some other things at play? Let's talk vice presidents, okay? Let's talk VP pick because that is very important. She has to pick, her VP pick is very important because we've been watching politics since the beginning, since whenever. The first election that I was really tapped into was Al Gore in 2020, in 2000. I wasn't old enough to vote, but I was old enough to hit the ground voter registration when I was in Hampton. So I was very active. I just didn't get to cast the vote because I was still 17. But we know then, and I can't even tell you who Al Gore's VP pick is, but right now in this election, it's very important the same way it was important for Joe Biden to pick Kamala Harris, because you need to make sure you can scoop up multiple demographics. Now let's talk about demographics. Kamala Harris is a Black and Southeast Asian woman. She is 59 years old and childless. She is married to a Caucasian man. She has already been attacked for her race. People saying she Black, ain't no Black woman gonna do it. Some people say she ain't Black at all. Some people saying she thinks she, I heard bougie, uppity, all of that. Some people are saying that America would never pick a childless woman because there is no way that she can relate to women and families with children. So people aren't voting for her because she don't have a child of her own, even though she's a stepmom. You got the hoteps out here saying, how can we vote for somebody a Black woman who married to a white man? You name it, they out there. So you have the demographics that relate to her. You have college educated women, some college educated men, some, not very many, I don't believe. Correct me if I'm wrong about those numbers. You have Black women. You have some Asian women, Southeast Asian. You have some Gen Z. Her running mate got to be the whitest man we ever seen, y'all. He got to be white as snow. He got to be white. Because the same way Joe Biden, you gotta be able to scoop up demographics. That man got to have kids. He got to have a wife. He got to go to church on Sunday. He got to be ex-military. He got to hit all the check boxes. So there have been names floating around. Personally, who I want for VP ain't gonna be the VP because it's gonna be two people from California, and I think I read today that there's a law where two people from the same state can't be a president and a vice president nominee. But y'all know, listen, I'm have to go with my dog Gavin Newsom. Say, look, that hey man, if we was living in a perfect world, my dog Gavin Newsom. That's my hey man. Say what y'all want about Gavin. Some people don't like him. I fool with me some Gavin Newsom. Okay, I fool with me some Gavin Newsom, but I don't think he gonna get the pick, and he can't legally, they said. But these are the picks that are floating around. Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, white guy, he's Jewish. Pennsylvania is a battleground state. That's what we need. People saying he got a good chance. You got Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona. Now, I wasn't familiar with Mark Kelly until just now. Apparently, he is married to Gabby Giffords. Remember Gabby? She was the representative who was shot in Arizona. Remember, almost lost her life. He's her husband. He's also an astronaut and a military veteran. He was in Desert Storm, I believe. So hey, that we got him. We also got Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan. Big Gretch, they be calling her. She got some buffs that she was wearing when she be bopping around town. We love her. She almost got took hostage because remember they went crazy and was trying to kidnap her. Governor Andy Beshear from Kentucky. He seemed like a nice guy. I saw him over on the news today talking about how JD Vance ain't like us. Okay. You also got the governor of North Carolina, Roy Cooper. Don't know much about Roy, but he on the short list. You got Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland. Now we love Wes Moore. I feel like Wes Moore is gonna be one of those people who eventually run for president. Black man. I think he Alpha Phi Alpha. We represent for the Divine Nine, but black man. I don't think they're gonna go in that direction. They also have the Illinois governor on the short list, J.B. Pritzker. I don't know nothing about J.B., but he on the list, and I believe that's it. Out of those people, it's sounding like it's going to be the governor from Kentucky, Pennsylvania, or Arizona. Personally, what I read up, I say go with Mark because you got Gabby Giffords, right? You can address gun violence within that. He's an astronaut, so he's smart. He understands science. Huh? He has military experience because the vice president is often the person going overseas and talking foreign policy. They're in those conversations, and he has that knowledge. He's also close to, and I'm not sure if Arizona is definitely a border state because I'm sketchy on the geography, but he in that region. So I will go with Mark. That's just me. But either way, I feel like there will be an announcement no later than the Democratic National Convention. And I also feel like that will be a good time to re-energize and refocus because when President Biden was still in it, people was salty. You had people stepping out of line. People were trying to steal delegates. So it was a little up in the air about what's going to happen. But as of today, if I'm not mistaken, I just saw on social media, somebody confirmed that all states' Democratic delegates have confirmed that they will be going towards Vice President Kamala Harris. So it's going to be pretty hard to contest her. She also hit a new record. She had the biggest donation amount in a single day donation fundraising amount in one day since I forget which time period, but she raised around $81 million in one day. So we moving forward, baby. You either get on board or you getting left behind. So what are the action items and what are the next steps? One, I'm going to give y'all the heads up. There will be a segment on Black News. I won't say that it's going to be weekly, but it's going to be whenever it warrants. Will be a political segment on Black News that updates us about what's going on and talks about the election as we head into November. Heads up. If you don't want to hear it, it'll be one little segment. You can skip past it and jump to the next, the fun topics. But baby, we locked in. Next, what I'm going to do, I've already signed up to volunteer with Cali Democrats and Rock the Vote. I plan on either text banking, phone banking, going to any activations, and helping to get unregistered Gen Z voters locked in and ready. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to be going door to door. Now, I'm a Black woman. And contrary to what people may think, I do not feel safe knocking on no stranger doors. So you don't hear me knocking on no stranger doors. But I will text your nana and them and make sure that they in these battleground states with their marching orders. So I'm doing my part. I left that call with 44,000 Black women. And while there were many different speakers, right? I mentioned Bernice King talked. Maxine Waters spoke, even though her audio's messed up. We couldn't get, they ain't help Auntie with her audio. So we couldn't really hear her. She spoke. There were different people on there just encouraging and just offering some prayer and feedback. I left that thinking, oh shoot, we about to activate them inner college days where we all had marching orders and everybody had a job. I know my job. I know what my job is, and I'm going to proceed with those tasks. So that's what I'm going to do. For y'all, I will say the same. What are you good at? And this was similar. I think if y'all were listening during the George Floyd and back then, everybody in movements have skills and they have a job. Some people are sign makers. Some people are good with social media. Some people are the voices. Now, some people are fundraisers. Some people are donators. Some people are outside in the street on the ground. Everybody has a part. Just because you can't do one thing doesn't mean that your area of strength, your area of need, and your area of focus shouldn't be something else. So figure out what you gonna do, even if as simple as cussing your hotep aunties and uncles out to get them to vote. If that's your job, that's your job. But we are going to execute it. So that's what we are now. Let me know your thoughts about all of this. I know that was a long segment, but child, this is unprecedented news. And these are times where we couldn't predict this. So let me know, one, if you think Vice President Kamala Harris has a chance of winning. Two, if you are as shocked or was as shocked as I was that this even happened. Three, if you are planning to or not planning to vote in this election. And then four, let me know if you are a Red Hat supporter so I can ban you from listening to Black News. Okay. Hit me up. You can find me at Cornelia on social media. And ain't nobody gonna ban you, child. You just get on our nerves. So no, you ain't banned from listening to Black News. You just annoying. On this week's episode of Black News, we talked about Joe Biden removing himself from the presidential race and backing Vice President Kamala Harris for the position. We also talked about the strategy behind electing Vice President Kamala Harris for President of the United States. Hit me up and let me know your thoughts about all these topics, some or none, and I'll check back with you guys next time. That's it for this week's episode of Black News, y'all. Thanks again for supporting the podcast by sharing, liking, subscribing, and rating 5 stars on your favorite podcast app. To find more information about me, you can check me out at Cornelia on social media, as well as on my website, which is cornelia.com. And as always, thanks for supporting, and I'll be back next week with new topics and a new episode.